Good morning, everybody, and Happy New Year. It's yours truly, Brandon Rutherman, for the Bowl Bonanza Kickoff Show on this, the first show of 2024. Here's hoping that all of you out there have a very happy and prosperous new year, because if not, I'm going to do my due diligence and make sure that you all have one. Because after the kind of year that we had, with all the games that we picked, all the lanyards that were worn and dropped, and various other things that made this first full season of doing the Kickoff Show, I cannot begin to tell you how excited I am and looking forward to perhaps the most anticipated college football season maybe ever, with the expanded playoff to 12 teams and so much more that will likely happen between today and the start of the college football season in 2024. But today, we get to finish up the remaining picks for the season. Now, I don't know if you'd be able to see it, but we've established somewhat of a new tradition to the helmet tree, and that is, once the bowl games are done, the helmets for every matchup do basically a 180. Instead of going face mask first, now they're lined up back to back. It's just a subtle reminder of what's done and what's still to come. And what's still to come is actually on the other side of the tree. Wasn't planned out that way, but being that we took the tree from the bedroom to the living room this year and doing all sorts of different things to it this time, with puck lights, basically anything that didn't involve plugs or extraneous taping, not to mention the fact that we had set a record not once but twice this year. Once for the whiteout and the second breaking the whiteout. So 115 is right now the current standard. And it probably will remain that way until there comes that day where I upgrade from a 5-footer to a 6-footer. And then what? So excuse me for a moment. It's the price you pay when you get out of bed and you're doing this. If Pat McAfee can do a show with a tank top on, then I can do one in my flannel pajamas. There you go, folks. That's right. Oregon Ducks. They get to play the Liberty Flames in the Fiesta Bowl today. We'll get to that pick momentarily. But before I dive into the New Year's Day and CFP selections, I want to go ahead first and foremost get this one out of the way. There is a championship game being played, I believe, on Sunday in Frisco, Texas. That would be the FCS championship game between Montana and South Dakota State. As much as I loved what Montana did in the 3 weeks leading up to it, especially after the championship win over semifinal win, it's early. It's New Year's Day. You're bound to have a mess up here and again, so there you go. Montana beating North Dakota State the way they did in the semifinals. It only makes the most sense that this game gets picked first. Otherwise, I was going to wait until, game day to do it. But I'm going to stick to my guns on the pick regardless of what happens during the course of the week leading up to the game. I believe South Dakota State is going to do what Georgia had already done, and that's run roughshod to another undefeated championship season. It'll be close, though. I love Montana. And it would be easier if they played somebody else except for South Dakota State. Just to give me a reason to put Montana's Lanyard on. But here's the kicker. I actually don't have one for South Dakota State. I was supposed to get one, but never got around to it. So we'll have to put that on the to-do list for the off season. And just so you know, there's never an off season. We keep going. So, South Dakota State will win its second consecutive FCS National Championship over Montana in a close one. So, now we get down to the business of doing the picks. 5 picks in all. I got my lanyards in a bunch. And hopefully, can this be the day that I don't drop any lanyards until it comes time for me to officially drop them? Let's start with the former Outback Bowl that we now know today as the Reliaquest Bowl. I'm sorry, it's Outback. It's Outback. Just like Heinz Field in Pittsburgh, okay? Give me the bloomin' onions. Give me the bloomin' onions, damn it. Truth be told, I've never eaten at an Outback Steakhouse. I've never tried the bloomin' onions. But my God, they look good. Anyway, Wisconsin is playing LSU. And the playing field just got a little more level. Jaden Daniels, the Heisman Trophy winner, is not playing in the game, which continues to bring everybody to the idea that there has to be some sort of stability that college football just does not have between the name, image, and likeness, the opt-outs, the portal, players, preparing for the NFL draft. Truth be told, and I had a great chat just this last night with my man, Mr. Brian Stuckey. I don't remember it right off the top of my head because I don't have a script in front of me here, but we touched on that very subject last night. There's just absolutely no stability at all. And it's hurting the game. Then I'm reminded of what Maryland did to Auburn in the Music City Bowl. What Notre Dame did to Oregon State in the Sun Bowl. You get relative unknowns that had played maybe the equivalent of maybe one series for an entire year. A play here and a play there. And you're seeing all of these players that you hadn't heard before come out of the woodwork and shine in these bowl games. And I don't have a problem with it one way or the other. It's just that college football, by and large, really does have a problem. We are about to embark on the next chapter in the evolution of the game. And without somebody steering the ship, it is going to be a bumpy ride. I could very easily throw in the Roll Tide Roll reference, but I'll save that for the end of it. Because when you're the captain of the steering, you're trying to steer the ship into that next chapter of college football, you better hope and pray that everybody comes out of the other side still in one piece. I just can't for the life of me see how that's going to happen, at least for this year. And it's going to get crazier. There's just no stability, no structure. And we've touched on this at least twice now. And while I'm more concerned about just picking games, I'm 19-17 going into today. And I'm sure that some of my picks, some of those picks that I made that would have been wins have turned out to be losses. There are those, precious and few exceptions. I mean, we knew Georgia was going to do what it always does, and that was dominate against Florida State, with Florida State being so undermanned. It's like an extended 10-minute power play in hockey. That's how bad it was. That's not the Orange Bowl that I know, that I've traditionally have known for decades. It was tough to watch, even tougher to listen to, and I'm not by any means a Joe Tessitore fan, but I could have easily have muted his voice. But, where, as a broadcaster, you're trying to sell to the viewer that it's going to be a great game, but how can it be when it's completely one-sided like it was? So, yeah, there's a lot of factors that roll into it. And I could easily go on and on and on about this, but we got all off season to see exactly what is going to happen over the next several months. For me personally, we're coming to the end of the year. The tree behind me is going to eventually get taken down, and I'm not looking forward to it. Not looking forward to it at all. I mean, I could easily keep it up there all year if I wanted to, but, at some point, you gotta at least take it down and, get ready for next year. So I'm more concerned with now as opposed to what lies ahead. Tomorrow, as they say, is never promised. So take each day one day at a time, folks. As for that Reliaquest Bowl, the formerly named Outback Bowl, I'm still going to take LSU, and I am afraid we got to at least put one lanyard on just to let you know that, hey, I made a pick already, so we're one pick in. I don't know why. For some strange reason, I get a feeling Brian Kelly, for as much as I hate the guy, is going to try to do to Wisconsin what he did to Purdue in the Citrus Bowl last year. And if he does, then he's no better than any other coach in the country. Oh, who am I kidding? He's the absolute worst. How he has a job, I have no idea. Meanwhile, I'm waiting to see who's going to be stupid enough to take Jimbo Fisher under their wing. So there we are, folks. Who are we going to do next? We're going to do, speaking of the Citrus Bowl, Iowa and Tennessee. Speaking of opt-outs, Joe Milton, as I touched on in the last episode, is not playing today. This has the potential of maybe being either a shootout, something of which Iowa has no experience in having, as far as I know, or it's going to be a field goal slugfest down in Orlando's Camping World Stadium this afternoon. All I know is it's going to be fun. And it has to be fun. You got a chance to put one more W in the win column to take into the off season to help with your recruiting efforts, especially now with Iowa and Tennessee about to play in expanded conferences now. So, yeah, this game is going to be of huge importance for both teams for its respective futures. As for the game itself, I continue to put my trust in Iowa and its defense. And with Joe Milton not playing, I am going to ride with the Hawkeyes this afternoon in Orlando as they take on Tennessee. Which now brings us to the Liberty Bowl. This is a no-brainer for me. It was just a matter of trying to figure out which lanyard to wear. And this is by no means disrespecting Liberty. Liberty's undefeated. They got a good coach, Jamie Chadwell, formerly from Coastal Carolina, and all the good teams he coached down there in Conway. But, you know, you're about to go up against a different breed of animal. And this isn't Coastal Carolina playing BYU and throwing your weight around. You start doing that, gauntlets are going to be thrown. And besides, Oregon's got its full complementary group of weapons that decided to play instead of foregoing what eligibility they may have had left. Whether it's it is Bo Nix's last game today. That's pretty much a given. So, gonna go with Oregon in my lanyard of choice, being that it is also the day of the Rose Bowl. I'm acknowledging, which year am I acknowledging? Am I gonna have to take this off? Oh yeah. The 2015 champions from the first college football playoff when they put the beat down on Florida State. Still one of the most priceless victories I had ever seen from a team that I think few people were expected to win. And they went out with Heisman winner Marcus Mariota and that 1-2 punch of, I believe it was Royce Freeman and Thomas Tyner. And let's not forget the fumble, Tony Washington. Oh my goodness, it's still... I might want to watch that. I might want to watch that just for old time's sake, but it is New Year's Day after all. So we got the 3 undercard games to precede the championships, which now brings us to the college football playoff. I'm going to start with the Sugar Bowl first. You pretty much know I'm going there anyway. Texas, Washington, for the right to go to Houston to play in the championship game. Question number 1. Who do I pick? Horns down or Washington? It's like choosing the lesser of two evils, isn't it? And when you're a fan like I am, you love Oregon, you hate Washington. You love Alabama, you hate Texas. And, well, needless to say, you have to pick one. But even crazier is the fact that, let's assume I go into that game and I'm below 500. Then what? Then my bowl season was shot to high hell. This is a very slippery slope for me to be riding on here for a game like this, knowing that you got 2 very good quarterbacks. Washington, I think, for all the talk that's been made about their wide receivers, it's up to Texas to try to shut them down. But then I'm reminded of something that happened a few years ago. My brother and I had gone to watch West Virginia play Texas in Morgantown. And along the way, during pregame, we were walking around the stadium and there were various tents set up. And among those tents, first of all, there were 2 tents. One for the Big 12 trophy that I can honestly say I had the fortunate honor and privilege of posing with. And then there was another tent with all the Big 12 helmets. And the one thing that you may never see as me trying on West Virginia's, but I do happen to have a photo of me holding Texas. I don't know what possessed me to do it. Although if I had to do it all over again, I would have very easily have just turned the helmet upside down. But I didn't. And then I got to thinking about after the game, Texas had beaten West Virginia, and we were hanging out at the Boston Beanery with about 7 TVs on, checking out all these games, and I've found myself mingling with Longhorn fans, and they are great fans who travel well. The ones I talked with, they're wonderful. So I started talking about the Texas teams that I grew up watching. Players like Todd Dodge, Bill Boy Bryant, Mossy K, Jerry Gray. You know, these were the kind of Texas teams that I could get behind, where you knew they weren't going to play for a national championship, but they were good enough for, the occasional Cotton Bowl appearance. They were that good. They were very good teams in the old Southwest Conference. Really, they were the only team, I think, in the Southwest Conference I could actually root for back in the day. Because you have to figure, back then they had Houston, Baylor, SMU, Texas A&M, and a select number of others who I can't think of right off the top of my head. But Texas was back then the gold standard in the old Southwest Conference. And now they're playing their final game as a member of the Big 12. And they are about to join the SEC next year, which by and large means this could be a potential career suicide. Maybe. Just for tonight. And for the last time this season, I gotta channel my inner Matthew McConaughey one more time. All right, all right, all right. That's right. I'm taking Texas over Washington. Which now brings us to the Rose Bowl. Michigan, Alabama. Let me first off mention something very important about this game today. When you consider Michigan's last 2 CFP semifinal appearances against Georgia and TCU, they did not have running back Blake Corum. They do today in Pasadena. And I don't know how that's going to affect things, but I will say one thing. It would be somewhat of an easier pick if he hadn't played. He's that good. But there's one little problem. One little problem. He mentioned something about being, the top dog or whatever. I don't remember word for word, but I look at that as bulletin board material. And you don't go poking the elephant and thinking you're going to come out on the other side with your hands up in the air, your head held high, trophy in hand, because you still have to play one more game. And on top of everything else, you don't give Nick Saban 1 month in thinking, or rather, let me say it another way. You give Nick Saban 1 month, that's about all he needs to prep for a game of this magnitude. And besides, Alabama has already knocked off a number 1 team with, that got them into this position in the first place. They beat Georgia. This game's going to have, some ebbs and flows to it that are going to have everybody on edge. I'm sure of that. And I also believe that Alabama has grown up so far and so fast in the last 3 months since that loss to Texas. And I don't know if I want to say it now, but if there is a sign to steal, I got one. I got one. I'm surprised Bill Engvall didn't chime in with this, so I'm going to channel it right here. Mr. Harbaugh, here's your sign. And for my choice of lanyard, this isn't just a Rose Bowl, it's business. Thus, we break out the camo for this one. Not like Miami in 1987. No, this is more about reminding everybody who Alabama is and what they will become. And considering that I picked Texas in the Sugar Bowl, we'll see you in Houston 1 week from tonight. And with that, we bid you a very wonderful New Year's Day. This has been the Bowl Bonanza Kickoff Show right here on both Facebook and YouTube. Roll, Tide, roll.